I now hand the conference over to Mr. Unat Kachekar, Managing Director. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this first investor con call of this financial year 21-22. It is often said the only certain thing about life is the uncertainty that it brings with itself. If the financial year 2021 was the beginning, quarter 1 FY 21-22 has only added to this uncertainty. While the financial year bygone manifested the significance of resilience at Galaxy, the financial year 21-22 marks the dawn of acceptance, adaptation, augmentation, and action. Accepting the transformation of the world into a new normal, acquiring the flexibility and agility to quickly adapt to the dynamic phenomena, augmenting the value delivered to our customers by further enhancing our customer-centric solutions, and believing in target-oriented actions. It is this approach that has ensured we face the multiple challenges on hand with confidence and emerge stronger. Our Q1 performance is a testimony to this. A quarter which not only adversely impacted each and every element of our supply chain, but also saw improved performance in multiple areas. Ladies and gentlemen, while the demand outlook remains robust, our ability to service this is dependent on the supply chain scenario. We say this as at the start of the quarter, we had the wave 2 impacting our people, the heart of our operations. While this had an impact on production, the major hit came in the form of delay. The delay in setting up and operationalizing our new capacities for our specialty products. The worsening international logistics scenario due to rising freight costs and unavailability of containers compounded the situation. Rising input costs and unavailability of certain critical raw materials adversely impacted our ability to service demand, thereby impacting our performance. Ladies and gentlemen, we may sound pessimistic, but we think it is important to convey you the reality as it is. The international logistics scenario continues to worsen, and we see the same continuing for the remaining part of the year. Now, despite the multitude of challenges, our teams have responded exceptionally well. This quarter saw your company register a 15.4% volumes growth led by our specialty products. While the momentum continues to remain robust for our performance products, opening of the developed economies aided our specialty volumes. We see this trend continuing in the coming quarters. The rest of the world market has made a strong comeback on the back of a robust performance registered by our specialty products. While India has grown 32.1% in terms of volumes, we remain cautious due to two reasons: signs of tepid demand and missing pent-up demand which was present in the quarter 2 of FY21. The Africa, Middle East and Turkey region primarily got impacted in this quarter due to the supply chain constraints. Demand remains robust and we are confident of getting our mojo back from Q2 FY22. This quarter also saw your company launching Galaxy Hearth, a specialized home care brand based on the fundamental premise of sustainable and innovative solutions for our home care customers. We also launched Galaxy Hearth Mix Pots under our Hearth range, a new age solution to meet the needs of the new age consumer. A ready mix concentrate for the preparation of laundry pots or capsules powered by plant-based surfactants. The home and personal care industry today requires innovative and sustainable solutions to power their brands. Our recent launches ensure the same. Vaccination is critical to ensure 100% vaccination for all eligible employees. Apart from bearing the entire cost of vaccination, your company also organized vaccination drives at our plants and corporate office. We are pleased to share that all our eligible employees have been 100% vaccinated have got their first dose. The company will ensure that the second dose gets completed, and we hope to complete the same by September end. So, ladies and gentlemen, while things may appear uncertain, uncertainty breeds agility and ability. A combination of these ensures action and response. At Galaxy, we believe with the right mix of people, solutions, infrastructure, and customers, we are not only ready to ward off this challenge, but also be ready for our future, the hallmark of a sustainable organization. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will now welcome questions from you. Thank you once again. And be safe and stay safe.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to limit their questions to 2 per participant. Time permitting, you may come back in the queue for a follow-up question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We'll take a first question from the line of Sanjesh Jain from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Few questions. First, on the volume growth, if I look at 2-year CAGR, assuming that last year was an anomaly, so if I look at 2-year CAGR, which gives me a better picture how have we performing, performance has grown at 7.2%. Well, specialty is still flattish on a 2-year CAGR. Though we did say the developed market is coming back, but it's still not coming back as good as a performance. So, should we see a further acceleration in the growth for specialty? And what has held on to the growth for the specialty in this quarter? This is my first question.
Yeah. Sanjesh, thank you. So the entire situation today has to be looked at not from only the context of market, how buoyant it is, but the ability of us and other members in this industry to respond to these requirements. And the response to these requirements have been significantly and severely impacted due to supply chain challenges all across the world. Okay, so it never truly reflects what is the potential of the market in terms of what it is capable of taking from us. Okay, so the supply chain situation, which has been grave over right from, let us say, October of last year, continues only to worsen, and we are not very optimistic even for the balance 9 months of the year with respect to the supply chain situation. Okay, we do hope that things come back to normal, at least from the beginning of the next financial year.
Sanjay Natarajan here. There are 2 other aspects. One is our capex that was to be commissioned last year itself, last financial year, for our specialty ingredients at Tarapur and Jagadia. It was supposed to have been commissioned last June. It got pushed to this March because of COVID wave 1. Again, when we were at the last leg of commissioning, we had the COVID wave 2, and this is getting commissioned only in December. So, had we had the commissioning of these plants done earlier as we had anticipated, I think we could have serviced more volumes of specialty ingredients. That is one. Second is also in this quarter, we had the certain critical raw material constraints in terms of availability. Okay, also ensured that we couldn't service the demand in a very wholesome manner. So these 2, but if these 2 had been headwinds had not been there, I think we could have certainly shown better growth in our specialty ingredients and to some extent even in performance surfactants.
Got it. It's not that the supply chain is holding back in terms of inventory to us which need to be shipped. Nothing.
Can you be a little louder, Sanjay?
Be a little louder, Sanjay.
So to ship all the products. It's not that we couldn't ship all the order and there is backlog which can come in the subsequent quarter. Nothing like that. It's just a raw material of availability and.
No, not that. Not that. It's too complex, Sanjay. It's a combination of, because what is impacted is both incoming and outgoing. Okay. The issue is my suppliers are ready with the material. They are just not able to find containers, or if they find the containers, they are not able to find the space on the vessels. The other aspect is on my outgoing. If you look at US West Coast, it's the worst impacted. Latin America is the worst impacted because you just don't have sailings happening at the frequency that is required, and neither are the containers available. Forget the cost. The freight rates have gone up 4 times to the US West Coast. It has gone up by 3 times in Asia Pacific. So that anyhow is an issue. So the ability for us to service our customers' requirements on time and for them to plan their requirements, okay, certainly got impacted. And our team's entire objective is to see how well I am able to meet my customer requirements despite all these challenges. It's been absolute, what I can say is that a lot of engineer solutions being come up with. People are working 24 hours, in my operations team to ensure that we don't miss on any single kilo of serving our customers. That's the situation we are in. It's been unprecedented. I think I haven't experienced this sort of a situation on international logistics in the last 20 years. And you see that being echoed by many exporters and importers, okay, over the last 6 months. FIU has been mentioning this time and again in almost every fortnight.
So the challenge for international trade as we see it for the coming year is going to be only this supply chain and logistics challenges. And not just in India, but across the world.
Got it. No, for us it's a dual challenge because we have to pay inbound higher freight charge, and for us export is a larger contributor, so we have an outbound. Are we getting enough price increase to cover the rise in the logistic cost, which will help us maintain the margin? Or?
See, one of the important things, if you look at from when I engage with customers, I can tell you, I can make it real for you. So when I'm talking to customers, the first thing is I should be able to guarantee a delivery to them on the date they want it. And then I can talk about the increase. The issue here is, the increase that I talk today, by the time I dispatch it, say 3 weeks from now, the rates have gone up. Because no one says that they give me a rate today, they will keep it valid when I want to ship it. So it's all, and you also have shipping companies which say to do the booking, you need to be paying some advance, freight. And if you don't take that sailing, okay, it gets, forfeited. So now in this situation, when I engage with customers, first is my ability to be able to pass on increases is determined by 2 aspects. One is my ability to guarantee saying you want it on this date, you'll get it on this date. The second is what I say today as the freight cost is something that should stay valid when I ship it to them. Because I can go back to my customers every week saying that my last week what I told you is no longer valid. You need to be taking in a higher freight cost. So that does upset the rhythm in terms of my customers' ability to source from me. Correct. So it's a very sensitive situation, and we are ensuring that we keep our customers satisfied. We keep them giving reassurance, and the only objective we have, if you ask me today, my team's only objective is, the mandate to them is ensure that you reach the material to the customers on the date they require. Do all that you need to do. And because this situation, it may be there for the next 9 months or 12 months, but this is not going to be remaining forever. But I need to have my customers, well entrenched with me, correct? So that's the sort of mindset with which we are working.
Got it. So the related question on the margin. So if I look at the margin in our 2 entity, which is a standalone entity and then the remaining part of the console, it looks like standalone has taken a bigger hit in the margin, which is 550 basis points, whereas the non-standalone, which basically is your Egypt and US, there the margin compression is much lower at 340 basis points. I thought India, because we have a larger exposure to specialty, the margin compression has to be relatively lower, but there is a significant difference in the margin compression what we have seen in the India entity, whereas AMET entity. I think it's actually in the reverse order.
Yeah. First, the thing is to look at the positive side of it, Sanjesh, because we have 3 engines, and you see that all the 3 engines are firing pretty well, and which obviously is a testimony to the sort of business model that we have, and in terms of the products and the locations, the subsidiaries from where we operate. That is, having said that, the issue in the standalone in India was the specialty ingredients. impact was in terms of freight rates, the raw material prices, as well as, because there are contracts that we do, okay, which obviously have to be ensuring that we deliver. Freight rates are also something that, because specialty chemicals, you can't be changing the pricing every month, okay. So because we need to ensure that the customers are, they have a sense of certainty. And also, our ability to serve, okay, the specialty products, okay, was also severely constrained in terms of our, the unavailability of certain critical feedstocks, and we had to resort to importing certain intermediates, paying a much higher cost to be able to fulfill the demand. So that was the specific that explains why the standalone, despite the specialty ingredients volume being higher, why you don't see a commensurate margin increase.
Got it. One last question back on the margin. Despite all this, we are still doing a very strong 43.8 rupees per kg kind of a gross profit per kg, which probably barring last quarter is our highest from the gross profit per kg perspective. Probably margin may not be right. Do you think this kind of gross margin per kg we could sustain even going forward?
See, the only headwind first is important for me is to ensure that we keep our customers within our fold and we ensure we support them in every possible way despite all the constraints that we have. Margin will obviously be a consequence. Okay, if I have the customers with me and they've invested so much amount of effort and time in me in terms of keeping me into their buying portfolio in a strategic way. So that is the first priority that we have. And the logistics situation and the feedstock situation is only compounding it. So our objective is that once we ensure that we are able to keep our customers satisfied well, I think I don't see any reason why, okay, we are not able to maintain this momentum in terms of the margins.
Got it. Thank you, Natarajan sir. Thank you, Shekhar sir, for all the answers, and best of luck for the coming quarters.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to our participants, if you wish to ask a question, you may press star and 1 on your touchtone telephone. Our next question is from the line of Rohan Gupta from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sir, a couple of questions. Sir, first is on our volumes on specialty chemicals. So if you see that it's almost fixated at almost 21,000 and 21,500 from last 4 quarters. It seems that though the pandemic era still continues, but still I think the specialty chemical as a product, as a basket, has improved significantly, given the people's focus on health and mainly hygiene sectors. Somehow it's not getting reflected in terms of absolute volume numbers. Do you see that it's because of the external challenges like logistics and all, or we are having some issues in terms of product approvals in the current pandemic era because of the restrictions on travel and because of those reasons? So.
Yeah, Ron, as I just explained quite a few minutes back, the two issues. One is in terms of, we obviously in terms of the sort of plans we had signed off on a project commissioning last year on specialty ingredients. Obviously, there has got delayed. Had it been commissioned, I think we would have been able to deliver better volumes. Okay, so we don't see an issue on the demand side. There can be some sort of volatility over 1 or 2 or 3 months, okay, but that is not, because directionally we see the demand situation to be robust. And the logistics scenario is only complicating it because we need to carve out special ingredients to, mainly it is Europe, okay, it is LATAM, it is US, and it is Asia Pacific. And that obviously also is a concern in terms of how do we look at meeting the demands of our customers on time, every time. So that's something. So we don't see any issue in terms of approvals getting delayed or whatever. It's a question of it's more of a supply side issue, both in terms of our projects not got commissioned on time because of COVID, wave 1 and wave 2, and the second is the internal scenario has only compounded that issue.
So, sir, will we see the accumulation effect? I mean, if these are the short-term issues, definitely if not today, maybe after 3 months to 6 months, these issues will be sorted out. And this supply side issues and logistics challenges will not remain forever. So will we see any kind of accumulation effect, like as you said that the orders are coming and the clients are already coming and the products approval are already in place? So can we expect that in maybe in the next year or after 3 or 4 quarters when things normalize, we'll see a bump up jump in a specialty products basket, which can be roughly 15, 20, 30% kind of growth. Though I'm not looking for any guidance from you, but I'm just clearing my doubts that can we have those kind of opportunities going forward?
Yeah, Rohan. So we would also want that to happen. So I only hope that happens. But and yes, okay, that's something that we can probably aspire for. But one issue that we have to be very careful, and that's what I explained a few minutes back also, that it is important that I keep my customers' demand satisfied on time. So that's one of the reasons why we are taking all sort of actions to ensure we keep them satisfied. Because one of the issues in special ingredients is that if your customer is not going to be getting material on time, my only worry is that they should not look tomorrow saying that, anyway, I'm not getting material, let me look at reformulating. Now, that's a big risk that you run. So it is not that when the supply chain situation gets totally back to normal, okay, customers will say, because they have to still manage their business till the time this lasts, correct, in terms of the supply chain situation. So it's not a straight line answer that I can give you. But yes, as we see these sort of issues that also happen, we continue to be confident in terms of we engage with the customers to be able to reassure them and keep their interests alive in terms of all that we are doing. Because the customers certainly know that we are doing everything that we need to do, investing in capacities, managing the extremely challenging logistic situation, the raw material situation, and yes, and that's something that we're doing pretty right with our customers. But if you have this logistic situation continuing this way, because it is worsening by the week, and that's the only thing. And the best case situation for us is to what you said should happen. And we hope that best case situation pans out.
Okay. So second question is on if you can just give some comment on Africa and Middle East Turkey market, which was almost -6% for the current quarter. I believe in volume terms it would have been almost -20%. So which were the markets which has affected this Africa, Middle East, Turkey?
In fact, Africa, Middle East, Turkey was a very clear situation where the demand was there. We actually could not serve our customers well because of the logistic situation constraining availability of feedstock into my plant in Egypt. It was severe. It started from January. It created huge amount of issues in April, May, June, and our plant in Egypt, couldn't run fully. The situation is only now improving, say, towards the end of last month. So, but for that, I think our AMET volumes would have been much higher. So AMET
volumes are impacted mainly because of the logistics challenge and more so in Egypt market.
No, because if I don't produce, I can't even serve Turkey market. No, that's the issue.
See, logistics is an international problem. It is not just India or Egypt. It is international.
Even from Egypt, your availability of, say, one is my incoming getting delayed, is leading to issues in terms of my production not being interrupted. Second is my outgoing from Egypt. Say, if you look at Egypt into US, Egypt into Europe, the situation in terms of availability of containers, higher freight costs, and availability of space on vessels continues. The issue remains same in Egypt also as in India.
Okay. And sir, because the situation will be similar for everyone, all the suppliers. So in that case, I mean, the customers are taking a hit in terms of they are not able to get the product, or we are seeing some risk in terms of they are changing the supplier or the source.
See, it's like this. The same thing. The answer to your question is what we would do. From our sourcing side, if I have concerns in terms of availability of imported feedstock, then I would say, how can I localize? If I can localize. If there is no opportunity to localize, because these sort of things don't happen overnight. It needs to be in a very structured and a very proper way. So yeah, there are some customers, if they have a local source, logically they'll go to the local source. If there is not a local source, they still depend on an import source. They will go for that import source which gives them certainty in terms of delivery, on-time delivery. So that's the way it is. So if I have an option for my feedstocks, I will localize them. In the current situation, we will localize as much as we can. And wherever we are able to do it, we are doing it.
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We'll come back in for follow-up questions, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to our participants, if you wish to ask a question, you may press star and 1. We'll take a next question from the line of Dhruv from HDFC AMC. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, following up with the Sanjay's question earlier, so if I do a deduction of console minus standalone and get the resultant number, basically the subsidiaries Egypt and US, the EBITDA there seems to be consistently improving. And in context of your commentary that you were not able to meet demand, so I'm not able to reconcile that well. So what is, what if you can help us understand it better?
So one is, say, if you look at our US operations, that is not different because that is more focused into US market majorly. And obviously US wasn't impacted majorly in terms of, because they're majorly focused on market within US, and US, as you know, has been pretty robust in terms of the way the demand has been panning out. If you look at Egypt, Egypt, despite because Egypt also gets into certain specialty care products that they do, and the mix has been much better, and that enabled them, to be able to deliver a better EBITDA. Whereas as I look at India, which I explained to Sanjay on the standalone side, I explained as to what are the reasons as to why the numbers got impacted, both in terms of the extra cost we incur in terms of getting some intermediates imported, to take care of our customer requirements because there's certain raw materials not available within India, and the enhanced freight costs, that happened, and also the sort of volatile RM scenario. So it's a combination. And my specialty ingredients, I couldn't serve all the volumes that I could have served based on what the customer demand was.
Got it, sir. So I'm just focusing on the subsidiaries, Egypt and US. So this is only not in this quarter that there is an improvement. There has been a consistent improvement over the last many quarters now. So if you can probably speak on what's changing there. Is it largely probably, if it is driven by US, then is it that the driver? So or any further thoughts on that?
See, as we have always said, particularly with respect to India and Egypt, there will be a progressive improvement in terms of the product mix. So that will be an evolving scenario as we go forward. As far as the US is concerned, it is almost largely specialty, ingredients oriented. So US, you can say, is a totally a specialty ingredients oriented business, which we address from our US subsidiary. And India and Egypt, they will be progressively evolving, improving scenario where the ratio will go slowly upwards in terms of specialty ingredients.
Sure, sir. And sir, one question was on the, you mentioned some part of the volumes you lost probably also because of the specialty plant not coming up. Now, if I look at some of your earlier comments, you used to say that we generally put up a plant when we have already reached 60-65% utilization and we plan for the next phase of capex. So, isn't there sufficient capacity within the existing specialty plant, or is it some specific product that you were not able to sell? Or I'm not sure. What's the
very good question, and precisely we initiated this capex almost 3.5 years back, and we were supposed to commission this particular plant in June of last year. Now that is really getting extended by a period of 1.5 years. So which means this delay has certainly cost us dearly with respect to servicing the specialty ingredients demand for our customers. You are very right. We always anticipate and then take capex calls well much in advance. So we were able to certainly, we had done that on time as far as performance ingredients is concerned. Whereas the specialty ingredients, as I said, we had initiated this project almost 3.5 years back. And we wanted to commission it in June of last year. But that has really got extended.
So basically, currently, a specialty will be operating at a very decent utilization.
You're right.
And so the last question is on a per kg basis, because I believe percentage margins are getting a bit abnormal because of the increase in raw material cost and others. So on a per kg basis, on EBITDA even as gross margin, which was highlighted earlier, we are doing still extremely well, probably ahead of our guidance, 16 to 18. So if again, if I reconcile with your commentary, is it something that there is also something abnormal gain? For example, you had some abnormal impacts, like for example, you were not able to ship or you're not able to produce. Was there also some abnormal gain which benefited us, or there is nothing? It's just the cost, and as things normalize, we should be hoping for something better.
Yeah, so there's nothing called abnormal gains. It's a way that we manage the mix well. Okay, and second is, if you look at it moving forward, the whole issue is in terms of our ability to meet the demand, supply chain constraints, and so that's why when we've always been cautiously optimistic and we guided to 16 to 18,000, from 15 to 17,000, and that's something we would probably want to look at sustaining at the higher end of the band, and then we can look at taking it upwards. But as of now, we are very much we would like to very much stick to the 16 to 18,000 band.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Sure. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone who has a question may enter star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. Our next question is from the line of Bharat Sheth from Quest Investment. Go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, my question is pertaining to the kind of supply chain problem we are facing, and particularly in the specialty delay into our new plant coming in. So how does that affect our long-term relation with our customer, because of which non-availability they may be suffering? So if you can give some color, what are the response and how do we really will be able to come out of this?
Yeah, so customers, see, that is what the sort of relationship we enjoy with the customer, the way we engage with them. So they also are aware of what the situation is. And we've also shared with them what are the plans and how we're going to be ensuring that we are going to have plans in terms of getting the requirements met despite these constraints. So that's something we are well engaging with them, and they've been fully briefed, and we don't see any issues on that front.
But do you think longer term, that can affect our relation? Because in past, we are enjoying good relation because of our sustainable and timely supply to them, so which is missing since last 2-3 quarters. So over a period, do you think that they may look for an alternate supplier or?
No, not exactly, because the supply.
What our customers seek is a transparent and open and timely communication, which is what we ensure that it does happen. We have a long relationship, and these relationships are long-term in nature and strategic in nature. Yes, there may be certain short-term blips or short-term uncertainties and pressures, but that doesn't impact the long-term relationships. Okay.
Oh, yes, sir.
So what is important for us is how do we ensure that we keep our customers. And many times we try to solve any issues together. That is the quality of the relationship that we enjoy. As a matter of fact, we discuss openly, and many times customers come forward in terms of enabling us to come up with right solutions and optimum solutions, particularly with respect to the logistics and supply chain challenges.
Okay. I do appreciate. Sir, you long term I understand, but can you elaborate a little bit more on this strategic thing what you are talking?
See, as I said, strategic means that we talk about, aspiring, or we are business partners. Customers look at us in terms of their long-term business goals. Okay. As I told you, we enjoy relationships with our customers anywhere from 10 to 40 years in the context of when the business or the relationship started. So there are some customers with whom our relationship goes back to 40 years. And there are some customers where the relationship goes back to 10 years. Now, this relationship is built not only as a supplier who can promise and ensure delivery on time, but more important, as a solution provider, as an innovation partner, and as a business partner. Okay, so this has been the characteristic of the relationship that we enjoy with various customers that we have in various geographies, and the way we have grown with each other, both and with some of the customers. It is not only in India, but across their various locations in various parts of the world.
Okay, so at least સારું થયું. Okay. Sorry. So I appreciate. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any participant who wishes to ask a question may enter star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. Our next question is from the line of Ranjit Chirumalla from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for giving the opportunity.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chirumalla, we're not able to hear you that clearly if you're on a hands-free.
Yeah. Is this better?
Yeah.
Better.
Yes, sir. So thanks for giving me the opportunity. The question was more on the R&D and the new product launches. Recently, we seems to have launched the Girlsoft SLL, which happens to be a complete biodegradable thing. So just wanted to get more sense about these products and the slew of launches that are expected to happen over the next couple of years. And is this the direction that you are likely to take for the non-green or the reducing the petchem kind of a portion in our product basket? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's obviously our R&D innovation efforts are all centered around how do we make the product green, also how we make the process green with reduced carbon emissions. And that is something which is at the heart of our innovation efforts. So if you look at the Galaxy Earth, the solution that we have come up with, pods and capsules for fabric wash is one in that direction. SLL is also one in that direction, and we have other products also that we launch. If you look at non-toxic preservatives, we look at your GLA 21. They all emanated out of this thing to provide green product solutions to customers. At the same time, whilst we do that, how do we ensure the process also is green in terms of the green chemistry principles? So that continues to be a very clear focus, and we do see the way the consumers are also wanting more and more greener products, greener solutions. We are well positioned to be able to partake in this sort of a trend that is emerging.
So consumers are driven by safety, wellness, sustainability, green, and same is the case with customers. So as the world moves forward, we will see more and more products based on wholly plant-based ingredients, okay, and a slow substitution of petrol-based products. And Galaxy's innovation will be tuned towards this particular trend.
In fact, we have sent out our annual report for the last financial year yesterday, and the whole theme is on ESG. That contains a good amount of details in terms of how we are approaching this subject on sustainability and innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We'll go through it. Lastly, if you also can give some sense about the revenues that we currently have from these products and likely to aspire in next couple of years. Thank you.
So all these products evolve, and the interesting thing about our industry is that the product life cycles tend to be even 40 and 50 years. Okay. So what is important to know is that these are products innovated in the right context, and customers do welcome it. Of course, there will be quite a bit of time in terms of formulation preparation, formulation stability, and so on. And what we are very optimistic is that the incorporation of these ingredients will slowly evolve and then grow continuously.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll take our next question. That's from the line of Abhisar Jain from Monarch AIF. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot, sir, for the opportunity. Sir, my question is on the long-term growth strategy for the company from the current levels. So if you see that, sir, we have a 7 to 8% kind of a volume growth, and we of course are trying to increase the specialty product portion over time, which can help our EBITDA per ton also to improve. But sir, just from a long-term 5-7 year perspective, are there any more levers that are existing in this business where you can also increase your volumes a little bit faster and also your top line by way of either a product expansion or geographic expansion of our business? Would like to hear from you on this aspect, sir.
See, we have always said that we measure ourselves in terms of how we grow higher than the market in the various regions and geographies that we operate. This is something that we have been consistently doing, and we will continue to do that in the coming years. Number two, our innovation drives us in terms of coming up with new products and solutions required by consumers in the various geographies, more driven by the trends that the consumer needs. As I said, the consumer today seeks above all safety, wellness, and sensory, and towards this he is even willing to pay a higher price and premiumize. And this is a trend that we have been seeing very clearly, and this is what aids in terms of our growth of specialty ingredients, in terms of our overall portfolio. At the same time, performance ingredients, there is still a headroom available in the developing markets, including India, other parts of Africa, Middle East, and Turkey, and which we want to capitalize on. And we are rightly positioned and placed, and we have rightly created the capex to be able to respond to these requirements. So the innovation output is a very regular and steady output from our innovation team to respond to the various consumer requirements. And these are totally new products, new innovations, and a lot of working together with the consumers is involved. But we are knowing the customers and being in the industry for such a long time, we know that we can create a significant position for us in this particular industry as well as in the customers' minds.
Sure, sir. Understood, sir. Just a follow-up on this. So while I understand that our strategy right now is to penetrate deeper with our existing customers and in our existing geographies through better products, through innovative products. But sir, given now that we are generating very, very good cash flows and our balance sheet is much, much more stronger than what it was, say, 4 to 5 years back, I was just trying to figure out if there is also an opportunity now not immediately, but over the next 3 to 5 years to also look at some inorganic expansions in either the geographies that you're already there, like say a US, where you would be comfortable, or somewhere else, which can accelerate the growth beyond the current range that we are in.
Yeah, we do see that as a possibility. So we would seek appropriate targets in terms of acquisitions or inorganic growth, but we will wait for the appropriate target. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And so second question is on the export incentives. So if you can just give a clarity on that because of the withdrawal of the MEIS, what is the export incentive situation right now, and any expectations or guidance that you have on that front?
We have given all the road tax data to the government, right? Okay. Now, what the government was to come out with the rates at which the road tax will be paid. It was expected to get released within 3-4 months, but it has got extended. I think we should have it in place with the trade policy.
Sure. So, of course,
as per the government announcement, it will be given from 1st of Jan. Right, because they have not withdrawn this scheme. Only thing is that they had moved it from MEIS to road tax. Right, okay. Where they have sought data from the various industries on the indirect tax component in the your prices, which are not reimbursed, on the basis of which they are determining the rates.
Right. Sir, so just to understand this correctly, do you expect that the percentages would be slightly lower than what you used to enjoy earlier? And whenever you get this,
road tap working, sir.
Actually, if you ask me, our expectation has no meaning, because we have been expecting this race to be announced in January, which got pushed. So we have done our workings. Now the government has to decide what they have to do. So till the time it is announced, no guesswork is going to help.
Right. Of course. So whenever it comes, at least it will increase. It will help increase our EBITDA to that extent, right? You don't need to pass it through.
So the moot question is whenever it comes. So that's the way it is. So we'll wait.
Yeah. So sir, I'm saying whenever it comes, at least you can retain that. You don't need to pass it through to your customer.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Bhargav Buddhadev from Kotak Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, team, and thank you for the opportunity. I have just one question. So clearly the pandemic has sort of come up with new challenges. So the only question is, what could be the key learnings from this pandemic for us to ensure that going forward we sort of don't encounter the same problems that we have encountered, especially on the supply chain side. So is having a larger localized manufacturing footprint a solution, or what could be the solution to ensure that we learn out of this pandemic?
So, as we said in the beginning itself, the learning is one of adaptation, augmentation, and action. Okay. So, obviously, anticipate and prepare ourselves to the best extent possible. But I wonder if a different virus hits all of us, and if the existing vaccine cannot, protect us, we may go through the cycle all over again. Okay. So we cannot anticipate and be ready with a vaccine for an unknown virus. Okay. But then what is important is that how do we adapt and how do we augment and how do we act in a way, how do we build a teamwork? I mean, so what has been important, or the important learning in the last 1.5 years is the way that we have, our teams have come together and risen to the occasion. That is what is very, very significant and heartening. And as you know, the last year, we started on a note of pessimism, but ended the year with a stellar performance. And this year, I think we would like to look at with optimism. In spite of all these challenges which are in front of us, we would like to end this year again on an optimistic note. So we pray and hope, and let us see how it goes.
So, sir, where I was coming from is that are we looking at increasing our manufacturing setup in Africa and Middle East so that we can have more localized footprint, which would mean that our reliance on supply chain and international trade challenges could sort of reduce going forward, is what I was coming from.
No, that is happening continuously. Okay. As a matter of fact, our Egypt location will have more and more in its portfolio of products. As you know, Egypt started off with only performance surfactants. Today it has a decent mix of specialty ingredients in its portfolio, which will further enhance as we go forward in terms of our investment with respect to the portfolio. So this is continuously happening across our various factories. Same is the case with US, where we put up a brand new factory last year as far as proteins is concerned, and which certainly has aided us, particularly during this year of difficult times.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, and all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take a next question from the line of Bobby Jairam from Falcon Investments. Please go ahead.
Has the demand in India been compared to pre-COVID times?
Can you repeat your question?
Can you repeat, please?
how has the demand in India been compared to pre-COVID times? Is it on par?
How is the India demand been?
Yeah, so the India demand, has been keeping up, but the COVID wave 2 suddenly, see, the difference between last year and this year, between wave 1 and wave 2 was that in wave 1, rural India wasn't impacted at all, and the rural demand actually kept the momentum on in the India market. Whereas this year, I think the COVID virus in wave 2 has been pretty democratic. It has impacted the whole of India, and rural has been impacted pretty much more. So we did see, what we are seeing is that the demand growth is not as what we had expected, but we see the short-term blip. Things should start improving, say, the season starting moving forward. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
See, what is also is a reality that we need to get is that prices have been taken up by the various manufacturers, and which we feel does impact consumption and demand, because the purchasing power of a large mass of population has suddenly, reduced during the last 1 year or so, particularly because of the localized or the temporary unemployment that the mass of people went through. Okay, so we do see a stability in terms of demand at this particular point of time. We would look forward to how the festival season, because the festival season is starting now, how the festival season is going to impact demand and consumption. We would see over the next, let us say, 1 to 2 months or so.
Right, but the festival would be more towards specialty chemicals, right? Your performance is more for day-to-day usage.
Yeah. See, largely performance should not be impacted severely. And so the only way the performance can get impacted is because of supply chain and logistics challenges. I mean, that's the only thing.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Hitesh Sharma from White Sky Investments. Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just want to check up about the work in progress in your investments. When is going to get completed? When the plants are going to come in?
Good. So one of the capexes, I think it is in the stage of commissioning, and we are hopeful of commissioning it by the end of this month. So it should start rolling out products from the first week of September. Similarly, another capex would be ready to get commissioned in another 45 days or so. So these are two important capexes which have been delayed, quite a bit, but we are hopeful and optimistic that they would be up and running in the next 40 to 45 days.
And what sort of revenue did you add by March?
They should add to our revenue so they should add to our revenue. Certainly, as we did mention that the output from this particular plant we have been expecting now for quite a bit of time in terms of servicing our customers. So we are quite optimistic in terms of running these plants at a good amount of capacity utilization. Let us see as we go forward.
The question is what sort of revenue you are expecting that it will add to the balance for sales in the next 6 months?
I think the new products share has always been around about 4 to 4.5%, and this will remain as far as this year also.
No values can you identify?
We will not be able to give you that information.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Rohan Gupta from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for the follow-up. Sir, the question is more on in the pandemic period, we have seen that the e-commerce trade has picked up significantly, and many small regional niche players are benefiting from that. We tend to do good business with them, and they also ask for the value-added services, which gives us a better margin. Also, sir, we see that there is a huge amount of money flowing to these new startups and these kind of companies in a current scenario. This is further helping these companies with their growth prospects. So do you see that these niche players or regional small players gaining in the market share? How the business has changed with them in last 1 year? What percentage they are contributing now? How you see the scenario over next 2 years with these changes happening?
Good. So this e-commerce players have been a real bright spot as far as this industry is concerned. I think a number of good players have emerged in this space. They are steadily growing. We have been working very, very closely with them, and they are continuously growing, and we see this particular space occupying a significant portion of the overall industry. So this is something very, very interesting for us, and this is a very important bright spot as far as this industry is concerned.
Have it changed any in terms of revenue contribution? How much it will be coming from these players? Like we have seen that almost 4 to 5 years back, players like to whom we provide the customized services like Wow or maybe even Mama's Earth and all. We have seen that we started only from the online, now even have the retail presence. So if you can give some of these customers profile and how it has changed in terms of revenue contribution, if you can just speak about.
As you know, Rohan, in terms of our overall portfolio, 62% to 65% will be contributed by the T1 customers, and the balance 35% will be the T3, T4 customers. Okay. Now, I would say as of today, the e-commerce players will not amount to more than anywhere from 8 to 10% of the T3, T4 component, which means on an overall basis, they will be not more than 5% today, as far as the whole country is concerned. Okay? So they are growing, but they are evolving and they are growing, but they do not contribute anything more than 4 to 5% as of today, as far as the overall market is concerned.
Okay. Yeah. But you see that this ratio, like 33, T4, which is right now 35% to 40%, and e-commerce is roughly 10% of.
See, at a global level, we have seen over the last something like 40 years, we would take the examples of the developed markets. In a highly developed market like US and Europe, the split between T1, T2 and T3, T4. Okay, we define T1 as global multinationals.
All right.
And T2 as regional multinationals plus say private label players. It could be, let us say, a Walmart, an Amazon, a Costco, etc., etc. Then the T4 customers are the real small. T2, T3 are again local majors, and T4 are the plethora of small customers across the world. So the split between T1, T2 plus T3 and T4 is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Okay, so this will be the you can say a long-term ratio between the T1, T2, T3 and T4 customers. As far as India is concerned today, the T1 and T2 still constitute almost 68 to 70% of the overall market. T3 is only 30. But going forward, we should see the development of T1, the T2, T3 segment, which I said, a lot of private label guys who are also emerging, and in this private label thing, possibly you could add even e-commerce, because the ratio was prior to the e-commerce emergence. Now e-commerce emergence has suddenly changed the paradigm of this industry. So we should expect, we would put the e-commerce players in the T2 plus T3 bracket. So, and we should expect them to grow to something like 1/3 in a long term. And I say long term, it will be in the next 25-30 years.
Right, so that's very helpful. And sir, if you can just only tell our split in terms of from T2, T3, T4.
Yeah, I already told you that for us it is 62 to 1 second. I think.
I thought, sir, that you were talking about the India market or the industry. So.
No, I'm talking about the India market. It's 53 to 7 to 40 last quarter.
53% is from T1.
Yeah. T1, 7 is from T2, T3. Huh?
Mr. Global,
this is global. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is global. T1, T2 to T3 is 53 to 7 to 40. And India, I think we have not.
Okay.
So this is global.
But directionally, Rohan, one thing that you need to be, because if you look at all the e-commerce people who have come into this space, they started on online, but then for them to really make it big, they need to go offline. So if you see, many of them are talking about from online to offline. Okay, so it's an interesting space to watch how they scale, right? Because the scaling up will happen on the offline. So they're all preparing. So it will be a good thing for us to watch. Okay, and we are well positioned to be able to leveraging on this sort of growth.
Great, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand over the floor back to Mr. Unathan Shekhar, Managing Director, for closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon, and I would like to bring this phone call to a close. So be safe, stay safe, take care of yourself and your family. All the very best.
Thank you, members of the management. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Galaxy Surfactants Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.